you can actually go and have a look at how many times the debt ceiling has been raised, and it's a lot. I mean, this table doesn't go back to 1917 when the debt ceiling started. It actually only starts from 1940, and these are in billions of dollars. And so, you know, back in the day, it was raised and lowered. You know, after World War II, you'd expect that. You know, country needed rebuilding. Then it went years without needing anything. And then again, and I imagine during Vietnam, you know, this is happening all the time now. War seems to be a prime reason for why they need to raise it. So pretty much every year from the beginning of the 60s all the way through to, I don't know when the Vietnam War ended, but sometime in the 70s. And then, yeah, I'm not going to label the point, but we get a bit closer to our time, and certainly when Bitcoin came around in 2009, and we can kind of see these are billions again, remember? So we had nearly 800 billion there, and then a few months later, just another 300 billion, and then a few months later after that, it was another 2 trillion. Then we had at least a decency to wait, and I say we, America had a decency to wait 2 years to ask for another 2 trillion. It's all right, guys, because they suspended the actual look at it on for the 4th of Feb 2013, but just only waited a couple more months before adding another 300 billion. So yeah, figures are all going there, and you can kind of see, and then, you know, some incredible numbers. So this was Biden when he came in, and everything you need to do, 6.5 trillion. You know, it just rolls off the tongue. That no problem whatsoever. 6.5 trillion in one go. And then, you know, so actually, well, let's look at it this way. In 2021, they raised the debt ceiling by nearly 10 trillion in the space of a year, not even the year, in the space of 6 months, $10 trillion, which is utterly crazy. Takes it to where we are now. Why are we talking about the debt ceiling? You know, I mean, it's suspended, raised, however you want to use it. They can spend more money, basically, is where we're at. Why is it important? Well, I've gone through and had a look at a few of these for us, and we can kind of see, not every time, and you got to be, you know, you got to have a look. But I've gone back to the Great Crash, and what I've done here is I put it in red because there was so many raises of the ceilings just trying to save the economy. So obviously this one went down as they were trying to print more money to put it back into the market to provide confidence. But what we can see is, I'm not going to bother cutting between the two, but just to say that I found the month that it happened in. It doesn't matter about the value. I've just put the month in, and then I've just put a horizontal line on here. And generally, increase in the debt season, this is the S&P 500, by the way, typically means that if it's not an immediate move, it's a move fairly soon after, that the markets are going to climb, and we're going to start to see risk on assets increasing again. Now, as I say, that doesn't always happen. We had in March 15, actually it's pretty flat, and then it fell away. But by the time March 17 came around, you know, big increase again. March 19, we ran out of money, big increase again. COVID happened, obviously, and then we saw the rally there. And then end of 2021, we actually, interestingly, that one saw a decent rally. But this one, despite everything, I think that was what, 2.5 trillion there, fell away. And then that's 2022 for us as it happened. But what can we see now? We've been on a steady increase. This is the 1st of May. It's a monthly chart here. So this might be too small for you guys. Let me zoom in. But, you know, typically 9 times out of 10, we've seen that actually this leads to risk on assets continuing to climb. So will that now be the case for where we sit at the moment? People are always going to say, you know, the global macroeconomic picture is different and there is a mass recession on the horizon. Yes, there is a potential for that. And I still think that is the case. But what has, you know, 5 years ago I would have never thought like this, but now is, you know, I can quite easily see people just printing more money to ensure that a recession doesn't happen and just kicking that can a little bit further down the road. It just feels like at the moment we're so numb to being, you know, just printing more money there, that they'll just do that, and oh look, our economy's still strong, it's still healthy, we've still got all the jobs, everything else, and they'll change the definition of a recession again, and suddenly it just won't happen, and then before you know it, we're back off to the races. So at the moment, whilst it's in my mind that may well happen, it doesn't actually affect what I'm doing right now, and should that start to manifest itself a bit closer to the time, and may have to eat a bit of humble pie and change my plan. But right now I'm just going on where we're at. Now, why have I put this orange line on here? The orange line is a sort of a representation of when the next BTC halvening is. And so, are we going to see, I mean, a climb into this, and then we know what happens after previous halvenings. Bitcoin continues to fly up. Okay, granted, this is the S&P 500 chart. It's just a visual representation. But there's a potential there for it to have a look at it. And I didn't put this one on, but as Mr. Tacos pointed out, let's change the color of that one. This red line is, and between now and then, is how long we've got for them. The debt ceiling is suspended, so they've got all that time to, okay, they've got to meet some restrictions and everything else, but I'm sure there's ways around those. And then let's not also forget that there's a presidential election at the end of 2024, and the inauguration is in January of 2025. We might have an entirely new party running the country. We could have a completely Democrats come in. We could have a new new president from the Democrats. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. And that actually leads me on to something I was thinking about whilst I was away in America. Because I was in Florida, and the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, he went on Twitter to announce his running for presidency. Now, he's always been thought of as a bit of a fan of cryptocurrencies, and certainly the people in Florida think he's God's gift, because he banned CBDCs from coming into law within Florida. Now, someone said to me that isn't actually true, and he just said that it wouldn't be recognized as money or something. So I'm not really too sure where that necessarily sits. But on his Twitter thing, he kind of made some random comments about you just do Bitcoin, and Biden will kill Bitcoin and stuff like that, which maybe we're taken out of context. Maybe that's not quite what he meant, but it kind of said to a lot of the Bitcoin maxis, well, actually, you know what, maybe he doesn't know as much as he thinks he knows about it. Why am I rambling on about that? Because he's nominated himself to be a presidential candidate. Now, likely the other, what will happen is there'll be a whole ream of Republican presidential candidates, and then one will be put forward. At the moment, there's him. And has Trump announced? Does anyone know if Trump's announced? I'm not sure. I know he was thinking about it. So maybe it might be between him and Trump. Well, Trump's not particularly a fan of Bitcoin. He doesn't like it. He's a fan of the US dollar. He doesn't. So, so what I'm saying is, at the moment, we've got a Democratic Party in the United States that are creating the policies. Just because we may have a change doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be an automatic switch in narrative. So if Trump gets in and he's still anti-cryptos, we may see that's the case. Now, on the other side of things, we know that Biden is not a fan of cryptocurrencies. We know, people he's appointed, Janet Yellen, Gary Gensler, who are running things over there in terms of legislation and rules and guidance. The SEC, so a pinch of salt after what we talked about. They've been appointed by Biden, and Gary Gensler's, I think, runs out in 2026. I think that's when his appointment ends. So if it's another Democratic president, and if it's still Biden, and he may look to keep Gary Gensler. Now, Gary Gensler may move on to other things, but it's likely that he will then replace the head of the SEC with someone who's also anti-cryptocurrency, and take it that way. But there is another Lib Dem, bloody hell. don't know where that came from, Democratic presidential candidate who has sort of appeared. And that is, I was going to say Robert Downey Jr. as well. I'm really struggling. Is Robert Kennedy Jr. So obviously he had JFK, and then he had his brother RFK, both of them assassinated. Well, RFK's son, he has said that he would like to be a presidential candidate for the Democrats, and he is very pro cryptocurrency. He's very pro Bitcoin. He's very anti large conglomerate organizations. You can imagine after the alleged assassination of his uncle by the CIA and all that kind of stuff. So he even spoke at Bitcoin Miami conference, and he spoke about what Bitcoin is and how powerful it is and why it's needed. And so, we could have it that maybe the Democrats do win, but they go with a different presidential candidate. And it's someone that's very pro Bitcoin. And then suddenly, these people in positions at the moment, like Janet Yellen and Gary Gensler, get replaced with people who are very pro cryptocurrency. And then do we see a lot of these lawsuits then just fall away? Do we see the doors immediately reopen to try and bring exchanges and try and bring cryptocurrency projects back to the United States and try and make them the center? We just don't know. But we are coming into an interesting time over the next 18 months of just where the people of power are going to be and where they're going to come from and what their attitude is towards it. And I think, although it's a long way off, maybe it's something to just sort of factor in where we see that next bull run. We should be into a bull run in 2025 when the new president or the old president gets re-sworn back in. I'll stop talking now.